So I recently received a really good comment on my Where to Stay in Asuncion, Paraguay video, where I broke down a whole bunch of the best neighborhoods for you to stay when you visit Asuncion. And I received this really good comment that sort of pointed out that I did not touch upon two well-known neighborhoods, Las Mercedes as well as Jara. And so I thought in this video, this sort of follow-up video, I would break down a little bit more about these two neighborhoods, and we'll start by reading out the comment because I thought it was pretty good. So it says, the areas around the U.S. Embassy, all sides are also nice, as well as the area around Colegio Internacional, which have traditionally been middle class and high middle class neighborhoods for decades. In addition, Las Mercedes is pretty good as well. The best private schools in Asuncion are the French school, the American school, St. Andrews, certain Catholic schools, etc., and these are located in and around these areas. The closest school to Shopping del Sol is the American School of Asuncion, the ASA. So this particular commenter had a focus as well on the school system. I'm not the 100% expert at the best high schools in Asuncion, I got to admit. I don't know exactly how they rank up in terms of prestige and all that, and that's definitely a topic in and of itself. But I thought in this video we would just talk a little bit more about Jara and Mercedes and what are the characteristics of these neighborhoods. What are the pros and cons of these neighborhoods? Are they maybe cheaper? Are they more dangerous? Blah, 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 compared to the more traditional neighborhoods of Villa Mora and Recoleta and the places where most digital nomads stay. So I guess as a quick reminder, in my previous video on neighborhoods of Asuncion, I said I recommended that you should stay in Recoleta or in Villa Mora or San Cristobal or Las Lomas or Iquasati, basically anywhere right around the malls, Paseo La Galeria and Shopping del Sol. One thing we did not talk about is how there's these two neighborhoods closer to the center that are also pretty decent, okay? So this is the center, by the way. The downtown kind of, in my mind, centers on Plaza Uruguay and on some of the plazas here. So this is the downtown, this is the center. And then there's these two neighborhoods that are close to the center. One is called Las Mercedes. I'm kind of switching my pronunciation a bit on this one, but this is Las Mercedes, which actually goes all the way to the water. So it really goes all the way from Mariscal Lopez to the water. So it's a pretty big neighborhood and one of the few that actually stretches all the way to the bay like that. And then the other one is Jara, and which I guess technically stretches all the way to the bay or the Costanera as well, and is kind of the other neighborhood. So let's talk a bit about both of these. So starting with Jara, you can see that there's kind of a couple different areas of Jara, right? You have this more industrial area here at the top, and you probably don't want to be anywhere near this main street or, you know, too close bordering this industrial area. And then we have this sort of like more informal-ish neighborhood that's technically part of Jara as well. And you can see that it gets even more informal here near the bay. By the way, the reason this informal area exists and the reason there are these sort of informal areas near the bay is because Asuncion, Paraguay experiences a lot of flooding, right? We're on the Paraguay River, which is one of the biggest rivers in all of South America, and it floods and the water the water level rises. And when it rises, it obviously floods this bay area and floods out some of these neighborhoods. So that's kind of the dynamic here. Is it's basically like a favela, even though they might not like me saying that. But you know, it's basically like a favela in these more informal neighborhoods. And the problem with being in Mercedes and Jara and being too close to the main street here, which is called Artigas. So the main problem with being near Artigas here is that you're going to be much closer to these informal neighborhoods. So here it's called Chacarita, and then here on this side, I don't know if you like technically consider it Chacarita, or it probably has its own little name. But so that's kind of the downside to both Las Mercedes and Jara, is that you're close to these sort of informal neighborhoods here, which brings with it a little bit more riffraff. You might think to the uninitiated that being near the Costanera would be nice because then you could come out here and go for runs and stuff like that and ride your bike, whatever. And that's definitely true to some extent, but you got to keep in mind that you're near these sort of informal communities as well. Okay? So that's kind of the north part of Jara. But I think when people think of Jara, they really think of this sort of central rectangle here, right? You can see there's basically like a near perfect rectangle that's 6 blocks wide and I guess 6 blocks up. And it actually has a lot going on. So it's got a lot of the good chain cafes and the restaurants. La Galette is really, really good. I think there's a branch of El Café de Acá here as well. Let's check that out. So Café de Acá, Barrio Jara. So there's a little Café de Acá here as well. And really like a lot of restaurants and stuff are in this area. Like there is still a bit going on and it is a pretty good area. Unfortunately, Google Street View is lacking overall in Asuncion. But as you can see, like it's a relatively decent area. And it's going to be a lot cheaper as well. So Airbnbs here are going to be a lot cheaper. Buying a property here as an investment is going to be cheaper as well. It's just overall in much less demand, Jara, compared to, say, Recoleta and Villamora. Okay? And then moving on to Las Mercedes, obviously, again, it's kind of got a couple different areas. You have like a complete informal area, favela thing going on here. There's a Nike factory outlet. There's a stadium. And then once you get a little bit off the main street, Artigas, it starts getting pretty nice. Like in here is pretty nice. You got churches. You got some restaurants, sushi bars. Oveja Negra is a really nice bakery. So that's an encouraging sign when you have, hipster gentrified bakeries. That's a good sign. You got Juan Valdez, which is a cafe that a lot of people would know about. They have, branches in Colombia, etc. And so they have kind of everything you need in this area, right? And kind of the benefit of Las Mercedes is just that you are really close to downtown. So if you were coming to Paraguay to do your residency, for example, then you'd be close to downtown and you'd be close to the place where a lot of your appointments are going to be, okay? While also being in the middle so that you can also get to the mall pretty fast. I mean, fast-ish. It's still going to take a while to get to the mall, right? It's definitely not walking distance. So Las Mercedes is doable. You could sort of stay in this general middle chunk here is good. And even here, really all of it is honestly quite good. You might want to be a little bit off of Avenida España or Mariscal Lopez. These are two very main streets. So really the three major arteries pass through Las Mercedes. You have Artigas at the top, you have Avenida España here, and then you have Mariscal Lopez along the bottom. And these three streets are going to be very, very loud. So if you do intend on staying in this area, you're going to want to really get particular about the exact block that you're going to stay on, whether it's a hotel or Airbnb, and just make sure you're at least a full block away from the main street. Otherwise, you're going to hear car horns and you're going to hear motorcycles and ambulances and all that 24/7. So try to really stay sort of in the middle of the area if you can and away from the main streets. But overall, I rate it. Like I rate Las Mercedes as being a pretty good place to stay, good neighborhood. I think it's overlooked right now, and I think in the future it's going to kind of come back around as being a popular place. There's kind of this conspiracy theory that people are floating around that the downtown, the historic center here, is going to eventually get fixed up. That a lot of the big power brokers in Paraguay are actually trying to buy property in downtown Asuncion right now, as it's pretty cheap and a lot of stuff is dilapidated, but it still has a lot of that character. And so I think that if you are going to invest in Las Mercedes, you'd be investing in this idea that the downtown is going to be renovated over time, that it's going to become more important over time, and they're not going to allow it to continue to decay. because if the downtown continues to decay, you're not going to want to be so close to downtown, because that might mean that poor people come to your area to steal your bike and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of the pros and cons of Mercedes, especially. You're close to downtown in the good and the bad that comes with it. But it's a historic neighborhood, right? Asuncion's 500 years old. It's a very, very old city. And so this is some of the most historic old areas of the city, with old properties, cool architecture. And honestly, even just walking around this area, like just walking these streets, it's a sight. Like, it's fun just to walk around and see all the wild different types of architecture that you're going to see here. So I would say Las Mercedes overall a little bit more upscale than Jara, arguably. So if you made it this far in the video, you might be asking yourself, hey, Vance, you told me I can stay in Las Lomas, I can stay in Santo Domingo, but then you say the next good neighborhood is Jara and Las Mercedes. So why can't I stay anywhere here in the middle? What's up with these areas? And what we have here is two neighborhoods, one called Virgen del Huerto, and then another one called Bellavista. And you might be wondering, why can't I stay in Virgen del Huerto and Bellavista and maybe save even more money, or be in a more authentic place with less gringos or something, right? So here's why. If you see that there is a river passing through Bellavista, and this mini river is essentially treated as aguas negras, black water, wastewater. And so this river smells quite a lot. And so anyone willing to live near this river, you'll see there's a bit more of informal housing, especially right near here, near this park, that it looks like the locals took over a park and just made their own little favela, like in the public park. I don't really know what the story is there. But in any case, this entire river, you do not want to be anywhere near it. Like, you don't want to be even within several blocks of this thing. So the entire Bellavista neighborhood, I would completely discount, because you don't want to be anywhere near that river. It smells a little bit. And then obviously the people who are willing to tolerate this and live in this area probably come from a little bit less resources, all else being equal. And so you're going to be around people with a little bit less resources. And then Virgen del Huerto, this whole area is just something you don't hear about quite as much. I think the problem with this neighborhood would be that there's just going to be less. I mean, you have the American University, you do have some stuff and some access to Jara. But I think it's somewhere that's just really not on the radar of most people. Maybe most people sort of basically lump it in with Jara, because I've never heard about someone saying, hey, I live in Virgen del Huerto or something like that. I think most people will just lump it in with Jara. So this area could work here. On this side, just make sure you're not in Bellavista. So you could do Virgen del Huerto, or even a little bit down here, technically whatever this area is called. Just avoid Bellavista at all costs. And that's essentially why you don't want to be in this middle area, or why it feels like there's a divide between the more downtown neighborhoods and then the more uptown or suburban neighborhoods near the mall. Alright guys, so the last thing to talk about in this video is we didn't talk much about the schools and the US Embassy, which was mentioned in the original comment. So I was going to have to look this up anyway, and so we might as well do it in the video. So the US Embassy in Asuncion is huge. It's a massive facility, and the comment was that really anywhere near the US Embassy is pretty good, which would make reference to this area called Bernardino Caballero, and then this other neighborhood called Emburicao. And the thing that I would, I guess, advise is do not stay on the west part of Bernardino Caballero, because I think near here, if you just look at it, it's starting to look way more informal in this block here, like way more squeezed together, the houses, compared to on the east side near the embassy. And you actually have Mercado Cuatro close by, which is a bit of a sketchy area. Ciudad Nueva, which can be a little hit or miss as well. So if you were going to be in this particular neighborhood, I would definitely try to stay on the east side as close to the embassy as possible, and north as well, where it looks to be that there's a couple nice houses and stuff here. So that's the embassy. And yeah, overall, like this is a sort of underrated four quadrant area where you have Emburacao bottom right, Bernardino Caballero, you have Mariscal Lopez, which is this area, which kind of blends into Las Mercedes, right? So I think this is overall a pretty underrated area that really has a lot of stuff going on. You have the Club Centenario, which is the oldest, most prestigious country club or city club in Asuncion. So this area is pretty good too. I mean, this whole kind of four quadrant area is definitely pretty solid as well. Again, try to avoid being too close to Mariscal Lopez or Avenida España just to keep the noise down. But overall, it's quite comparable to the best area. Like, don't think that if you're not near the malls, it's like the end of the world. This four quadrant area really would have everything that you need in terms of cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, things like that. So definitely something to consider as well. The private schools, we're going to have to go into a whole new video to cover the private schools. We're going to have to do some more research on that one to make sure we have that 100% down. But yeah, stay tuned for more videos. Subscribe for more videos. You might have noticed we're putting out either a podcast or a YouTube video literally every single day now. So smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave a comment if you like what you're doing, if you have any questions about what we're doing. And if you really want to advance your international plan, if you really want to start making things happen, getting residencies, relocating your family, getting a second passport, opening foreign bank accounts, creating an offshore plan, whatever it is, you can book a call. There's going to be a link in the description to start working with us right away. Or we have all kinds of free material as well if you're still in that stage. So whatever it is, we will catch you in the next video. Thanks. Ciao for now.